Black CEO mocked for paying with a black card seconds later. She buys the hotel outright. Hello everyone. Before we begin today's video, I need your help. We've noticed that the channel is losing traction, and subscribing is one of the best ways you can help us. It's quick, free, and allows us to continue bringing you great content. Your support means everything. Let's keep this channel growing collectively. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Now, let's get back to the story. You people and your fake black cards, this one's not even metal. The words sliced through the marble lobby like a blade. Heads turned. A quiet ripple of laughter passed through the air, not loud, but sharp enough to sting. The man behind the counter, Ethan Blake, front desk manager at the Horizon Lux Manhattan, didn't lower his voice. He held the sleek black card between two fingers, waving it as if it were evidence in a trial. Nice try, ma'am. But we've seen these scams before. The woman in front of him didn't move. Her name was Amara Lewis. Mid-30 seconds. Calm eyes. Charcoal suit pressed to perfection. No jewelry, no entourage. Just her phone, her silence, and the patience of someone who had been through this scene before too many times. The room smelled of jasmine polish and expensive indifference. Guests lingered by the elevators, pretending not to stare. A young couple paused mid-check-in. A bellhop froze beside his cart. Ethan smirked, sliding the card back across the counter with his manicured hand. Declined? Maybe try something more believable. The machine hadn't even beeped yet. Behind him, Sophie, another employee, leaned close and whispered but loud enough for half the lobby to hear. Maybe she printed it at home. Her laugh echoed against the marble. Amara's expression didn't shift. She simply said, "Run it again." Ethan blinked, almost amused. "I already did." Her tone stayed steady. "Then check your system." There once were. He leaned forward, voice dropping into that poisonous mix of pity and power. "You don't belong in this tier, sweetheart. This is a luxury property, not a test drive." That's when the silence cracked. Someone near the lounge muttered, "That's not okay." A young staff intern, Luis, glanced up from his tablet, eyes narrowing. His hand almost instinctively slid toward his phone camera. But Amara raised her palm slightly, no words, just a signal. "Not yet." She turned back to Ethan. "Are you sure you want to say that again?" Ethan folded his arms. "Security's on standby if you want to make a scene." Amara tilted her head, her voice dropping low. "Oh, there'll be a scene, just not the one you think." Her phone buzzed in her hand. The name flashing on the screen, Nia Thompson, Executive Operations. She didn't answer. "Not yet." She looked at Ethan, then at the black card lying between them like a line drawn in history. That was when Sophie whispered again, "Maybe next time, she can try the budget chain down the street." A soft laugh. A few guests exchanged uncomfortable looks. One older woman clutched her purse tighter. Amara exhaled slowly, a breath that felt heavier than air. The kind you take before an empire shifts. Before we continue, where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. And if you believe in dignity and justice, hit like and subscribe. These stories spark change, and we're glad you're here. Now, back to Amara Lewis, the woman they thought didn't belong. Because in the next few minutes, she wouldn't just prove them wrong. She'd remind the entire room exactly who owned it. Ethan flicked the card toward her again, the sound of it sliding against marble echoing like an insult. "You heard me, lady. Take your toy and move along." Amara didn't bend. She didn't even glance down. She stood still, too still, the kind of stillness that unsettles loud men. Behind her, the lobby doors hissed open. A family entered, laughter spilling in from the street, and then froze as they caught the tension. The air thickened, the smell of perfume mixing with quiet disbelief. Luis, the intern, pretended to scroll on his tablet, but his camera was rolling. The red light blinked like a pulse. Ethan smirked. "Don't look so shocked. You're not the first who's tried to fake a reservation here." Sophie leaned in. Maybe she saw a celebrity check-in and thought she could sneak a selfie behind the desk. That one landed. A soft, embarrassed laugh fluttered across the guests. Amara finally spoke. Calm. Sharp. "You finished?" Ethan shrugged. "That depends. You leaving?" She exhaled once. "Not yet." Long and fired. There was a pause, the kind that swallows noise whole. Then she reached for her phone. One tap, the screen lit up with a single name. Nia Thompson, Horizon Corporate Office. Ethan's smirk wavered. Who's that supposed to be? Your bank? Amara's tone didn't rise. Run my card again. Carefully this time. Sophie rolled her eyes. Ma'am, it's declined. You can't keep pretending. The point-of-sale terminal suddenly beeped, not from their input, but from an incoming override. The display flashed, admin, access verified. Luis frowned. He'd never seen that message before. Neither had Ethan. What? Ethan began, but Amara's voice cut through him. You just triggered an internal audit. That's Horizon protocol. It activates when certain keywords are used like fraud or you people. Sophie blinked. How could you? Amara's gaze didn't waver. Because I wrote the system. For a split second, no one moved. Then Ethan laughed too loud, too forced. Right. Sure you did. Luis shifted, uneasy. Sir, the register just froze. What? The whole POS, it's locked. Amara finally looked down at the card still lying between them. She picked it up gently, brushing an invisible speck of dust from its surface. That's the thing about technology, she said. It remembers who owns it. Her phone buzzed again. A soft voice through the speaker. Protocol 5 confirmed, Miss Lewis. Live monitoring engaged. Guests nearby exchanged glances. One woman whispered, Miss Lewis? Sophie's jaw tightened. Wait, Lewis, as in. Amara looked up. You're beginning to understand. Ethan leaned on the counter trying to reclaim authority. Ma'am, if you think bluffing will get you a free room, it won't. Security's on their way. She smiled faintly. Good. They'll want to hear this too. Louis swallowed. Ma'am, may I ask? Are you recording this? Amara met his eyes. No, you are. He froze, guilt flashing across his face. She didn't seem angry, almost grateful. Keep it, she said softly. One day, proof will matter more than protocol. Sitting to, said. Why? The lobby had gone silent now, no music, no chatter. Just the hum of the ceiling lights and the slow crumble of certainty. Ethan adjusted his tie, but his hands were trembling. You really think you can walk in here, accuse us of discrimination and… I didn't accuse you, Amara interrupted. Her tone was surgical. You volunteered. The doors at the far end of the lobby opened again, 2 security officers stepping in. Ethan straightened, relief washing over his face. But Amara was already dialing again. Nia, proceed to phase 2. Her voice carried across the marble like thunder disguised as calm. The 2 security officers paused halfway across the lobby. Something about Amara's poise made them hesitate. She didn't look like trouble, she looked like authority. Ethan gestured wildly toward her. That's her. Refused to verify payment. Tried to use a fake card. Probably stole it. The taller guard, Officer Daniels, frowned. Ma'am, do you have ID? Amara held his gaze. Calm. You might want to verify who you're speaking to before you touch me. Daniels hesitated, then looked at Ethan. You sure you want to escalate this? Ethan scoffed. You think she's somebody important? Luis, still filming discreetly, whispered, Maybe check first. Ethan snapped. Stay out of this, kid. But it was too late, the tension had shifted. The room no longer belonged to Ethan. It belonged to the silence Amara carried. Her phone buzzed again. She lifted it to her ear. Proceed with live verification, she said. Nia's voice came through, steady and professional. Copy that, Miss Lewis. Executing corporate authentication. One moment. Ethan rolled his eyes. Miss Lewis, huh? You really sticking with that act? Before she could answer, the massive digital screen behind the front desk, normally looping hotel ads, flickered. The Horizon Lux logo appeared, followed by a line of text. System override authorized. Lewis A. Corporate access, level 1. The entire lobby froze. Luis whispered. No way. Sophie's face drained of color. Level 1? That's ownership. Ethan stared at the screen, jaw slack. What is this? Amara finally stepped closer. Each word measured, deliberate. This hotel runs on Horizon software. Horizon systems, Horizon people, and Horizon answers to me. Daniels lowered his hand from his radio. The other guard took a half step back. Luis turned his phone camera slightly, capturing the reflection of the screen in the marble wall, proof of everything. Sophie tried to recover. Ma'am, we didn't mean any. Amara's eyes cut through her apology. You meant every word. That's the problem. Ethan's voice cracked. I, I was just following protocol. Amara tilted her head. Protocol doesn't ask you to humiliate people. You chose that part yourself. The front desk lights flickered again. Another message appeared. Employee access suspended. E. Blake S. Grant. Ethan's access badge beeped red. Sophie's followed. The sound echoed like judgment. Gasps rippled across the lobby. Daniels muttered, "Ma'am, what just happened?" Amara answered softly, "Accountability." She turned back to Ethan. "Every guest who watched this will leave knowing what power looks like when it doesn't need to shout." Luis lowered his phone, still in shock. "Ma'am, I'm sorry they treated you that way." Amara nodded. "You did the right thing by watching." Then, a faint smile. "Now learn to act before you need permission." Her voice wasn't angry. It was precise, the kind of tone that makes people rethink their choices for years. She gathered her phone, placed the black card neatly on the counter, and looked around the lobby one last time. "You mocked the color of a card," she said quietly, "without realizing it matched the color of your new boss." Nobody breathed. Then she added, almost as an afterthought, "Charge the suite to corporate. I'll be staying the week." And with that, Amara Lewis turned toward the elevators, the sound of her heels steady and final. Behind her, the Horizon logo glowed brighter, and Ethan's reflection, small and shaking, faded beneath it. The elevator doors slid shut behind Amara Lewis, but the story didn't stop in the lobby. It was only beginning to echo. Downstairs, silence hung heavy. The hum of the lobby fountain was the only thing brave enough to make a sound. Ethan still stood at the counter, staring at his useless badge like it might apologize for him. Sophie had retreated to the corner, eyes glassy, hands trembling over the keyboard that no longer recognized her login. Luis broke the stillness first. "She was calm the whole time," he whispered. Didn't even raise her voice. Ethan didn't respond. He looked around, desperate for someone to confirm that what just happened wasn't real. But the guests were already whispering, phones in hand, screens lighting up with the words CEO Amara Lewis, Horizon Lux owner. One guest, a middle-aged woman with pearls and righteous fury, muttered, "That's what you get for mocking someone because of how they look." Another added, "She didn't even have to yell. That's class." The crowd began to shift. What was once amusement had turned into quiet shame. At that exact moment, in the executive suite above, Amara stood by the window. The skyline of Manhattan stretched out before her, endless and indifferent. She could see her reflection in the glass still, composed, unshaken, but behind it flickered the memory of something much older. She remembered being 22, standing in a hotel lobby in Atlanta, wearing a borrowed blazer for her first business meeting. The clerk had looked at her the same way Ethan just had, skeptical, patronizing. "This card doesn't match the name. Must be an error." She'd spent that night in a rental car, crying, swearing she'd build a company no one could ever question. And now, 20 years later, she had. Her phone buzzed again, Nia Thompson calling in. "Everything's locked down, ma'am," Nia said. "The audit logs confirm bias flag level 3. HR is requesting your statement for compliance." Amara's voice was even. "They'll have it by morning. Press already picked it up," Nia added carefully. The video from the lobby hit 70,000 views in an hour. People are calling it the black card incident. Amara exhaled slowly. "Then maybe it'll remind a few people what respect costs." There was a pause on the line. Then Nia said, "You want me to pull the Horizon Lux rebranding campaign? Or double it?" Amara turned away from the window. Her tone carried that quiet fire again. "Double it. Add one line. Luxury isn't who you expect. It's who earns it." She ended the call. Back downstairs, Ethan was cornered by Officer Daniels, now speaking with corporate on the phone. His face was drained of color. Sophie wiped her eyes with the back of her hand. Luis stood awkwardly by the front desk, unsure if he should stay or leave. When Amara stepped out of the elevator again, every head turned. No security, no entourage, just her. She walked straight to Luis. "You're an intern?" He nodded nervously. "Yes, ma'am. Just my third week." Amara looked him in the eye. "Then you start your fourth as a full-time employee. Report to corporate Monday." Luis blinked. "Ma'am, She cut in gently. "You didn't film for views. You filmed for truth. That matters." "It is as Will Tanum." Luis's throat tightened. "Thank you." Amara nodded once, then turned to the desk. Ethan's voice barely held together. Ma'am, I didn't mean. She held up a hand. Stop. Her tone was still quiet, but it landed harder than a shout. You treated a guest like a threat. You used your uniform as a weapon, and you thought your bias was policy. She let the silence linger, her eyes steady on him. But policy doesn't protect prejudice. It exposes it. Then, almost softly, consider this your exit interview. Ethan's badge blinked red again as corporate ended the call. Behind them, the guests began to clap, not loudly, not chaotically, but as if the room itself had been waiting for permission to breathe. Amara didn't smile. She simply turned, heels echoing against the marble. Justice doesn't always make noise, she said over her shoulder. Sometimes it just signs the check. And with that, she walked out calm, unshaken, the black card gleaming once more between her fingers. Morning light spilled through the tall glass panes of the Horizon Lux lobby like a quiet confession. The night before had gone viral. By sunrise, 3 national outlets were already running headlines. Black CEO humiliated at her own hotel responds without raising her voice. In Dattered Now, in Resetter detention expeding that op. Intention subscribed to the Rainbow. Ethan's name trended next to it, not in celebration, but consequence. His phone had been confiscated by corporate security. Sophie hadn't returned to work, and Luis, the once silent intern, now had a seat at a desk upstairs with a gold nameplate that read, Luis Carter, Guest Relations Coordinator. But for Amara Lewis, none of it felt like triumph. Justice wasn't the goal. Restoration was. She stood alone in the penthouse suite, coffee steaming in her hand, the city's heartbeat muffled beneath double-glazed windows. The world outside was loud. Inside, she let the quiet speak first. Her tablet vibrated dozens of unread notifications. Journalists requesting interviews, hashtags climbing by the minute, investors messaging, proud of you. She didn't open any of them. Instead, she tapped open a folder labeled Past Incidents. Each file was a scar reports of discrimination complaints at her hotels that had been resolved, but never changed. She scrolled through them until she found one line that felt like a mirror. Guest reported being treated as fraud due to appearance. Staff followed protocol. She whispered to herself. That word again. Protocol. The word that people like Ethan use to hide cruelty behind a clipboard. She set the tablet down and picked up her phone. Nia. Here, ma'am. Prepare a company-wide memo. Every employee, every branch. Yes, Miss Lewis. About the incident? No, Amara said. About what happens next. Downstairs, the lobby had turned into a living documentary. Guests filmed themselves saying they'd witnessed history. Others took selfies where Ethan once stood, captioning them with hashtags like number the black card moment and number Grace Under Fire. Luis watched quietly, unsure how to feel about fame built on someone else's humiliation. When Amara stepped off the elevator again, the noise dimmed. Cameras lowered. She crossed the marble floor like time itself, slow, certain, unhurried. Good morning, she said evenly. I need everyone's attention for a moment. The remaining staff formed a nervous half-circle. A few guests lingered, respectfully silent. Amara looked around the space that had once felt hostile and now felt expectant. Yesterday wasn't an accident, she began. It was a reflection of something too common to ignore. So, starting today, every Horizon property will begin a new initiative. Luis blinked. Ma'am? Amara continued. We're launching Project Mirror mandatory empathy training, bias audits, and public transparency reports. If you can't treat every guest like they belong here, you won't belong here either. It was last down. A murmur spread through the lobby, surprise, approval, discomfort. But no one dared challenge her. Ethan, standing near the exit waiting for HR escort, lowered his eyes. The words hit him harder than any suspension notice ever could. Amara turned toward him once more. You wanted to know who I was, Mr. Blake. Now you do. I'm the reason this hotel exists and the reason you don't work here anymore. She paused, then looked around the lobby. But this isn't revenge. It's correction. Because no one should have to prove their worth before they're allowed to be treated with respect. Luis's voice broke the silence. Ma'am, can I stay to help with Project Mirror? Amara smiled faint. Real. That's exactly why you're here. The crowd began to applaud again. Not the chaotic clapping from the night before, This one was slower, grounded, full of something heavier than excitement. Recognition. As the sound filled the lobby, Amara looked toward the front doors, where sunlight pooled in gold strips across the floor. The world won't change overnight, she said softly. But sometimes it only takes one quiet morning to start rewriting the rules. And with that, she walked forward into the light, the black card still in her hand, no longer a symbol of status, but proof that dignity, once denied, could never be declined again. The following week, Project Mirror went live across every Horizon Lux property. From Los Angeles to London, lobby screens glowed with the same message in minimalist black and white. Respect is not a service, it's a standard. Every employee received an email directly from the desk of Amara Lewis. The subject line was short, unmistakable. Read this before you clock in. Inside, her words were clear and unflinching. We built this company on hospitality. That means making every person feel safe the moment they step inside. If you can't do that, you're in the wrong industry. This is not about race or gender or status. It's about humanity, the only luxury that matters. And we get a Reese's lighting. By noon, screenshots of her email had spread through LinkedIn and Twitter. Executives applauded her tone. Activists praised her restraint. But what struck most people wasn't what she said it was, that she didn't sound angry. She sounded tired, determined, real. Back at Horizon Lux Manhattan, Louise sat at the same front desk where the scandal had unfolded. The marble had been polished, but the echo of that day still lingered in the air, like a lesson too heavy to scrub away. Guests arrived with curiosity in their eyes. Some whispered, "That's the place." Others simply smiled in solidarity. Luis had a new badge now, his name engraved, his posture different. When a young black couple approached the desk, he greeted them with a warmth that felt personal. "Welcome to Horizon Lux," he said. "We're honored to have you." The woman smiled. "Thank you. It's nice to feel that." Behind him, a new sign had been mounted on the wall. "Every guest belongs here." It wasn't just decoration, it was policy. Meanwhile, in the corporate tower uptown, Amara stood in the boardroom, facing 12 executives, all older, mostly male, and all pretending not to be nervous. One cleared his throat. "Miss Lewis, some investors are concerned about the optics of, well, what happened?" Amara folded her hands. "Optics?" He hesitated. "Yes, the narrative has shifted from luxury to social awareness. Some fear it'll alienate the premium market." Her eyes didn't blink. "If equality alienates your market, you don't have a market, you have a mirror. And it's showing you something you don't like." The room went silent. Another executive coughed into his hand, trying to reset the mood. "Still, the stock dipped 2 points yesterday." Amara leaned forward, voice calm but razor sharp. "And it recovered 5 this morning. Because people trust companies that own their mistakes. We're not selling guilt. We're selling integrity." No one spoke after that. She gathered her notes, closed the folder, and said softly, "Meeting adjourned." And one repeated of the product as in a rain. That evening, Amara returned to the Manhattan property. The same doors that had once closed in judgment now opened in reverence. The doorman greeted her like an old friend. Luis was still at the counter. When he saw her, his smile widened. "Good evening, Miss Lewis." She nodded. "How's the day been?" "Quiet," he said. "But good quiet." "Good," she replied. "That means people are learning." As she turned to leave, Luis called out, "Ma'am?" "Yes?" He hesitated, then said, "The guests, they keep asking if the story was real." Amara stopped, looking back at him with a faint, knowing smile. "Tell them this. It's real every day, somewhere. The only difference is, this time, someone had the power to stop it." Luis nodded slowly, understanding settling into his expression. She walked toward the elevator again, the black card glinting under the chandelier light, no longer a symbol of exclusion, but of endurance. As the doors closed, her reflection caught her eye, composed, resolute, quietly victorious. And for the first time in a long while, she allowed herself a small smile. "Justice doesn't shout," she whispered. "It builds." 3 months later, the world still hadn't stopped talking. Clips of the black card incident had become case studies in universities, management seminars, and even law enforcement diversity training. There were think pieces, podcasts, and reaction videos titled "The Day Calm Won." But for Amara Lewis, the noise meant nothing if the lesson didn't last. That morning, she sat in the back of a chauffeured SUV, heading to Horizon Lux Chicago, another property flagged in the audit. Outside, the city shimmered in winter sunlight. Her assistant, Nia Thompson, reviewed files beside her. Same pattern, Nia said, flipping through a tablet. Complaints dismissed as misunderstandings. No disciplinary actions taken. Amara didn't look up. And the manager? Robert Kane. Been there 12 years. Never promoted. Never moved. Keeps the place running his way. Amara's jaw tightened slightly. Then it's time his way met mine. At the Chicago property, staff lined up nervously. They knew who she was now. Nobody mistook her for anything less than the owner. But fear wasn't the goal, awareness was. Amara greeted them one by one, shaking hands, reading eyes. Then she stopped in front of a middle-aged man in a blue suit, Robert Kane. His smile was tight, practiced. Miss Lewis, he said, voice rehearsed. It's an honor. Honor's a word that ages fast when you don't live it, Amara replied gently. Walk me through your check-in process. They moved toward the desk. She watched him interact with a new guest, a young black man wearing a hoodie and backpack. Robert hesitated before greeting him. His smile faltered just slightly. That half-second pause was all Amara needed. The guest handed over his ID and card. Robert took it, forced a polite tone, and asked unnecessary verification questions. The guest's shoulders tensed. Amara interrupted softly. You don't need to see his bank statement, Mr. Kane. You just need to hand him the key. Robert flushed. Of course. Just being thorough. Thoroughness looks different when color changes the tone, she said, not unkindly. The guest blinked, realizing who she was. Wait, you're her, he whispered. Amara smiled. Just checking in. Like you. The lobby murmured. Robert's composure cracked. Later, in the staff office, Amara stood before the assembled team. I'm not here to embarrass anyone, she said. I'm here to show what unlearning looks like. She played a clip from Horizon's new internal training video footage from the Manhattan lobby. Ethan's sneer. Her silence. The screen froze on the moment she picked up her black card from the floor. That, Amara said quietly, is what it costs to stay silent. Every time we look away, we let someone pay that price again. The room was motionless. Robert finally spoke, voice small. I didn't realize I was doing it. It's just habit. Amara nodded. Bias usually is. The question is, what do you do once you do realize it? This matabram. It is a plaint. He lowered his head. I want to do better. Then start by listening, she said. And by promoting people who don't look like you, not because it's trendy, but because it's right. As she left the building, a group of employees followed her out, clapping quietly, not for spectacle, but respect. The young man in the hoodie waved from the lobby doors. Amara waved back. Keep the key, she said. You earned it. Outside, Nia held open the car door. Another fire put out, she said. Amara smiled faintly. Not fire, she replied. Reflection. The car pulled away, city lights flickering against the tinted glass. Amara leaned back, the black card resting between her fingers again. Every mirror shows something different, she whispered. As long as we're still looking, we're still changing. 6 months later, the boardroom felt different. The long oak table that once reflected only men in tailored suits now had faces of every shade, gender, and background. Amara had made sure of it. Horizon Lux was no longer just a brand, it had become a blueprint. Still, change has a price. As she sat at the head of the table, her phone buzzed again and again. Reporters, partners, and one headline flashing across every business feed. Investors question Horizon's social reform costs. Nia, sitting 2 seats away, leaned in. Do you want me to address it? Amara shook her head. No. Let them question. It means they're watching. She looked across the table at the new regional director, a young woman named Janelle Porter, who had started as a night shift receptionist. Janelle, Amara said, tell me about the staff turnover since we launched Project Mirror. Janelle opened her tablet. Down 40%. Guest satisfaction's up 22. But some of the old guard left. Amara nodded. Then it's working. We're pruning arrogance, not people. A soft ripple of laughter broke the tension. But beneath it was truth. That evening, after the meeting, Amara walked the quiet halls of the corporate tower. It was nearly midnight, the hour when every success feels loneliest. She stopped at the glass wall overlooking the city. Manhattan sparkled below, alive and indifferent. Her reflection stared back calm, elegant, but weary. She whispered, almost to herself, "Power is heavier when you carry it quietly." Memories flickered again, the marble floor, the laughter, Ethan's voice dripping condescension. "You people and your fake black cards." She still heard it sometimes. Not because it hurt, but because it reminded her why silence was no longer an option. Downstairs, Nia caught up to her, holding a manila folder. "Ma'am, there's something you should see." Is as late the bass. Inside was a letter handwritten, the ink uneven. "Miss Lewis, I was the woman standing by the elevators the day they mocked you. I didn't speak up. I was afraid of losing my job. But that moment changed me. I've started volunteer training for young hospitality students to teach them what I should have done that day. Thank you for showing us what real leadership looks like." Elena Ruiz, former concierge, Horizon Lux Manhattan. Amara's eyes lingered on the name. "Elena," she whispered. Nia smiled. "She's the one who tried to defend you, remember? She's running a new branch in Boston now." Amara closed the folder slowly. "Good, she earned that. In their graph, unabaten better." The next morning, Amara arrived at the Boston property, unannounced, her favorite kind of visit. Elena was in the lobby, training a new team. When she saw Amara, her face lit up in disbelief. "Miss Lewis, I didn't think." Amara raised a hand. "You didn't think I'd show up in person?" Elena laughed nervously. "I thought you'd be too busy owning the world." Amara smiled. "Owning the world means being present in it." She glanced around the lobby, bright, open, diverse staff, greeting guests with sincerity instead of protocol. "This is what change looks like," she said softly. "Not loud, just consistent." Elena nodded. "They follow your example." Amara looked back at her. "No, they follow yours. You stood up when it mattered." Elena shook her head. "I only spoke once. And that's all it takes," Amara said. One voice to break a silence. Later, as Amara prepared to leave, a journalist waiting outside called out, "Miss Lewis, what's the secret behind Horizon's comeback?" Amara paused, hand on the car door, sunlight glinting off the black card between her fingers. "No secret," she said, "just accountability and memory." She slid into the car, the door closing like punctuation at the end of a lesson the world was still learning. The city pulsed below her like a living heartbeat, endless, unbothered, alive. Amara placed the black card flat on her desk beside the first blueprint she'd ever drawn for Horizon Lux. The ink had faded, the corners worn, but it reminded her why she'd built this empire. Not to prove worth, but to protect dignity. Her reflection in the glass merged with the skyline, half woman, half monument. She whispered to no one, "The real power was never the money. It was the choice to stay calm when they expected me to break." A soft chime echoed another message from Nia. "Your speech just hit 10 million views." Amara smiled faintly, typing back only 2 words. "Make it matter." She turned off the lights, leaving the office bathed in moonlight. The world outside kept moving, taxis, sirens, life. But somewhere in that quiet, a new kind of justice breathed. Silent, certain, unapologetic. "You mock the card," she murmured, walking away. "But you'll remember the woman." And the door closed behind her like the end of a legend. Weeks later, the Horizon Lux Manhattan lobby had changed in ways no renovation could measure. The same marble floors still gleamed, but now laughter carried warmth instead of judgment. Behind the counter hung a framed photo, a still from security footage, Amara picking up her black card, standing tall, unbothered. Below it, a plaque read, "Dignity is not requested, it's expected." Guests paused to read it. Some smiled. Others grew quiet. Luis, now in a tailored Navy uniform, greeted a couple checking in. "Welcome to Horizon Lux," he said proudly, "where every story matters." Upstairs, in the same suite where it all began, Amara stood by the window again, this time not alone. Elena, Nia, and Janelle joined her, discussing new expansions, laughing freely. For the first time, the room didn't feel like a battlefield. It felt like legacy. Amara turned toward them, her tone light but grounded. "We don't fix the world overnight," she said. "We fix it lobby by lobby." The women nodded. The skyline glowed back tall, golden, and equal. And somewhere below, justice walked in quietly and made itself at home. Months later, Horizon Lux had become more than a hotel chain, it was a movement. In cities across the world, guests began sharing their own stories under one simple hashtag, number belong here. Photos of front desks, smiles, handshakes, all tagged with the same quiet pride. One night, as Amara scrolled through those posts, she paused on a video. A young receptionist in Johannesburg stood up for a guest who'd been profiled. She ended the clip saying, "We don't do that here anymore." Amara replayed it twice. The same fire she once held in silence now lived in others. Her phone buzzed. Nia again. "Our new campaign just hit global coverage. You've started something bigger than hospitality." Amara smiled faintly. "No, we just reminded people how to treat each other." She looked down at the black card resting beside her tablet, the same one from that first day. Still scratched, still powerful. "It began with an insult," she whispered. "It ends with a standard." Outside, the world kept moving louder now, but somehow kinder. Morning light spilled across Amara's desk, catching the silver edge of the black card one last time. She picked it up, turned it over, and smiled. "I don't need to prove I belong," she said softly. "I built the place." The seven outside the city roared taxis, footsteps, ambition. Inside, peace. She slipped the card into her pocket and walked toward the elevator, leaving the office door open behind her. Because for Amara Lewis, justice was never about noise. It was about presence, grace, and power that no one could ever decline again.